Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Feels Like Weezer, the weekly podcast where we talk about Weezer's entire discography, song by song, track by track. I'm Zach Fracking-Smith, and you can follow me on Twitter at The Informal Log.
And I'm Eric Nash. You can find me at Lucky Mustard on Twitter.
Hey, Eric.
Hey, Zach. What's going
Welcome
on?
back. Oh man, I'm living the dream.
Yeah.
Because we're breaking format. This
Right.
is what I'm so excited about. This is why
But this is becoming a regular thing, though.
We
did the Star Wars special.
right, but that wasn't even close to Weezer related. This
That's
is at
true.
least
Yeah.
moderately Weezer
Yeah.
related. So as you can probably see from in your podcatcher, after you subscribe to Feels Like Weezer using your podcatcher, you can see that we're going to be talking about The Simpsons today. Which is just great. As you can tell, I'm very excited. Eric, why are we talking about The Simpsons?
Because I believe for the first time, at least as far as their voices, them actually taking part, Weezer themselves, Rivers and Brian and Scott and Pat, were on Weezer. We're on Weezer. They were on The Simpsons. We're on
Wait, are
a
you telling me that
recent
Weezer...
episode of The Simpsons. What's that?
Well, you're telling me that Weezer was on Weezer?
Yeah.
So strange. So we are talking about the most recent, well, as a recording, episode of The Simpsons. What was it called? It's, oh my god, the Hateful 8-Year-Olds or something like that. I have a lot to say about Fox's streaming as well. There's a lot of things I have to say. The Hateful 8-Year-Olds. The episode is called The Hateful 8-Year-Olds. So we're going to be talking about The Simpsons. We're going to be talking about what Weezer's part in this was. We're going to talk about how excited I was, and then how disappointed I was. Deeply, deeply disappointed. But I got to ask you, Eric, were you a big Simpsons fan?
I was a pretty big Simpsons fan. I still am, and with the main idea of it, that it is this pretty amazing animated cartoon sitcom show that lasted for quite a while and has lasted almost too long, but
31 seasons so far.
Yeah,
like good gravy.
But I was when the first episode came out, I was, I think, pretty close to the prime age of about 12 or so years old. Mm-hmm. So, and I even remember when the my parents would let me watch even just prior to that, when for the old on Fox, the Tracy Ullman show. I even caught some episodes of that, and therefore some of these mini, pre any normal show of The Simpsons,
where everybody looked like garbage.
Yeah, right. And Homer was sounded so much more like Walter Matthau.
I grew up watching it. That it was 5:00 every night. They would show an episode of The Simpsons. We'd watch The Simpsons while we eat dinner. A lot of times we'd watch it at my grandparents' house. Mm-hmm. And oh wow. Sorry. I just hadn't thought about that in a while. But, okay. I'm going to cut that out. Getting weirdly emotional about that. But, we watch it, every day, for during dinner. I remember one Halloween I was very upset because we couldn't stay home and watch the Treehouse of Horror.
You had to go out and get candy.
I had to go out and get candy. I was genuinely mad at that point, and I had no costume. I was a grumpy child. That was my costume. But that was also the year that I found a pillow in the back seat of my grandparents' van and just stuffed it under my shirt and called myself Fat Man. God, that's dumb. God, I was such an idiot kid. But, this was huge. This was a huge thing. And, it's such an important cultural... milestone, and a lot of, there's so many references not to overinflate it, but it's almost kind of like a modern, Shakespeare kind of thing, where you see Shakespeare references everywhere. Well, you see Simpsons references everywhere too, and even that episode of South Park where it's like they've been on for. Did I say the South Park? Am I like 1,000 years old? Even that episode of South Park when Simpsons did it. Simpsons did it. That was a lot of fun. But it was such a good show, and I just grew out of it as I got older. And this is the first episode I've watched probably honestly in about 10 years. And I realized why I haven't watched The Simpsons in about 10 years. But now that Disney Plus has all the Simpsons episodes, like I'm thinking about going back and watching the good stuff. But it's yeah.
But then for me, as far as recently, it was probably more like 5 years ago for me is when I kind of trailed off. I had some on the DVR, and then I lost that DVR or whatever,
And you weren't too sad about that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I really didn't pursue trying to make sure I caught every episode like I had been for so long. But what would happen is I would happen to just catch maybe one, maybe two, and not even the whole episode either. Maybe 10 minutes or something. Every season since, it's not, it's not as critical as it was, but it is a little more critical. I definitely did miss out. I'm pretty sure I didn't see until just this past week, the Mark Maron episode from last season, and then just from a month ago, the Kevin Smith episode. So I have watched those two as well as this one, just really recently.
So it's really just dependent on who's going to be guest starring.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I just like those things so much, it's all podcast related at this point. That's so much of my life, and
right.
Yep.
I'm gonna wax a little philosophical here. How fitting is it that Weezer, an aging, moderately irrelevant rock band, is headlining an aging, mostly irrelevant sitcom? Both were once huge. A huge rock band and a huge TV show, and now it's kind of relegated to white nerds talking about Weezer, and white nerds talking about The Simpsons. I think that's an interesting parallel to draw. Not that I'm saying, obviously, I love Weezer, and I've loved a lot of the stuff they put out recently. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that the parallels are a little bit too close to home. So, do you want to get into it?
Yeah, exactly what you thought we'd do for this episode. I'm not totally sure, but
no, neither was I until
you take it wherever you want.
Right. So, I was just kind of going as the show was going on, and taking notes about it. So the plot of this episode was Lisa and Bart are fighting. Weird, so strange. And Bart messes with all of her horse dolls or something, and then she severs the bond of sibling connection with safety scissors, which, like, that's an okay joke. The best part about that, by the way, was when Homer came in and was like, "Hey kids, quit horsing around," and then he's like, I'm like, that's hysterical. But then, and here's my big problem with The Simpsons now, is like, oh, now Homer's going to take 20 seconds and laugh about his own joke, and I'm like, just make the joke, just let the joke lie. Anyway, so Lisa gets invited to a birthday party of one of her friends who is also a horse girl, and shenanigans occur and everything. But the B plot is that after Homer and Marge drop off Lisa, they go on a booze cruise. And the band,
that was one of the best jokes. After something happens on the booze cruise.
Yep. We'll get to that. Don't worry. So the band that's playing on the booze cruise is Sailor's Delight, which is voiced by Weezer. Which that's one of my frustrations about it. But so like the big crux of the episode is that Lisa's friend, Addie.
Yeah.
Is that her name?
Or Addison.
Addison.
That's a little kind of a plot point.
Oh boy.
Later he's
she the horse girlfriend. Not the horse girlfriend. No. The horse girl friend. So it'd be like horse - girl.
Is she a minotaur?
Friend.
I'm
sorry. Let's pump the brakes here. A minotaur was half bull.
Oh, bull.
You're thinking of a centaur.
Centaur.
I cannot believe that we're doing a podcast together. I'm so frustrated about this. So she has these like horrible friends. Addie does. Like, I know that there's supposed to be heightened stereotypes of like kids acting like teenagers, but like, have they ever met children? The writers of this show, because it was just so unbelievable. Like I couldn't laugh at it because it was just like, this is incredibly unbelievable.
And that's that. But that's something I think they often will do though is take, give these younger kids that are supposed to be Bart and Lisa's age, or even Maggie sometimes too, and give them and purport upon them these older, kind of roles. So just the fact that they are, these supposedly 8-year-olds, hence the title, that are acting a lot like what you'd see for teenagers these days. At least that's at least the kind of the new cliche, so to speak. It's coming from the 10-year-old or so movie Mean Girls, I think, a bit too, which I haven't seen, but
it's such a good
I know
movie,
enough
dude.
about.
I don't know. Maybe it's right then. Maybe they nailed it, because I hated those characters.
Yeah. I think you're supposed to.
Like, I know you're supposed to not like them, but I hated them on a visceral level, like to the point where, like, if I felt that about an actual child, like, that would be horrible. Like, I should not have children at that point. But, like, they were awful kids. Terrible. My kid will never act like that. Kids will never act like that. Mark my words. So, Eric, let me tell you, I was so excited about this episode of Weezer, of The Simpsons, because they released the trailer before, where it was Weezer playing. They were animated. They were playing the Simpsons theme, and it was so exciting. I'm like, oh, they're gonna feature really big into the episode. 8 minutes in, they show up. 8 minutes. That is a third of the running time before we get to the big guest star. Which, I feel like when I used to watch it, like when they had guest stars, they played huge roles in it. Like or if they referenced real life characters or real life people, like George Bush and all that. Am I wrong? Is that something that they do more now recently?
But I think there were points where they used to have a guest star come on. I mean, probably one of the biggest ever, still ever, I would hope, but maybe not. Maybe you don't even know the name, Johnny Carson.
I know Johnny Carson.
Yeah. But, I mean, his role in that episode, even though, I mean, while he did appear like essentially twice, they were very small segments, and they really weren't crucial to the plot of that episode. But for more middle of the road, I mean, Weezer isn't really, like you were saying, really isn't that big of a band anymore.
I took deep offense to that, and I'm like, you know what? I said that, so
you said it first. But yeah, I mean, so those other two episodes I mentioned, the Mark Maron episode from last season and Kevin Smith from this season. Mark Maron, in a sense, had a pretty big role in that episode, but it was actually as a framing device to tell this other story.
Gotcha.
Krusty is on his podcast, and so they keep showing in Mark Maron's garage, Krusty and Maron talking into microphones.
Oh, that's what I was expecting more.
Yeah,
was something
you should go back and watch that one since it is podcast. I mean, because I don't know. Besides that, what the God friended me or whatever. I mean, and then there was that one other one with what's his name, Zach, whatchamacallit. Podcast playing into plots of whether sitcom or drama.
Of just
shows
pop culture
or movies, even.
writ large.
Say that again?
Like pop culture writ large.
Yeah, right.
Like,
yeah.
Just in general. Yeah.
Exactly. Has SNL had a podcast-themed skit?
Oh. Well, they also had a Weezer themed skit, so
well,
that doesn't
definitely
always mean
that,
relevance.
Yes.
So.
but then my next point is for the other episode that I watched, Kevin Smith, he has one line at the end. That's it.
How disappointed were you?
Yeah, that was Now there was a reference prior to that to him. Mm-hmm. So and that's why they made that reference then and had him on and brought him back or brought him in for that to say the one line.
I guess I'm just basing my experience off of 10 years ago as opposed to now, which
sure.
I get it, I understand. And maybe it's just one of those, like, when I was kind of thinking, and we were talking before the show, like, is this what it's always like? Or did I just watch a bad episode? Mm-hmm. I don't know. There were some really solid jokes in there, though, and I do want to point out the "Thank God I'm Dead" bit. My wife and I were just watching Riverdale, and it's based off of Riverdale. They even had the voices.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I knew there was a connection there. Yeah, I saw that.
Like, and it's so funny because we literally a week ago started watching Riverdale, and it's just it's showing up on all these little pop culture things. But it's they're standing around a gravestone, and he's like, "I'm so sad. I'm gonna take her ghost to the prom," and sticks a bar of dynamite in his mouth. That's just so good. That was so funny because it's that reminded me of the older Simpson writing, which itchy and scratchy kind of stuff. Which maybe I don't know. Maybe that's, like I said, maybe I just watched a bad episode, but that was the funniest part of the episode to me. The Weezer related stuff, Happy Hour, they played that at 10 minutes, and Homer calls Rivers a crooning sex pirate, which if I was Rivers Cuomo, I would have changed my bio to that on Twitter as crooning sex pirate.
But then the thing I don't think we're still not mentioning though. I mean, and I think it's related to what you were starting to say about your disappointment, is that it's not really Weezer. I mean, in a sense, and
yes.
As far as the plot of the episode goes, it's this other band that called Sailor's Delight that the Weezer guys are playing. They actually have roles in this. They are more like an actor than the guest spot normally does.
But what's so frustrating about it is that Weezer has had literal cruises, and I know that that's what the reference is, but it's just let them, because it's way funnier if you have a band that's really well regarded in pop culture, and they're fading a little bit into irrelevancy, and now they're playing on a booze cruise. That's hysterical. As opposed to just having these people voice essentially a Weezer cover band,
I almost wonder if there was with how Weezer did the cruises. Is there something legally where they couldn't appear in anything else where they were doing a cruise.
That makes sense. But at the same time, I don't think that's the case. I think it was just bad writing. That's me personally. But that honestly, like, that sounds like plausible. That could sound like an actual reasoning behind it. But at the same, like, I guess maybe it's like you couldn't. But then right at the end, they're Weezer, and they're still on the cruise ship. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Did you see the set list?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the set list gets blown off of the cruise. And you kind of have to pause to see it. But on the set list, this is what they play. Which, again, this is not accurate because they're playing way too many modern songs. The song "Piece of Cake." Then they have "Banter," greet audience. "Happy Hour," which is where we came in. "Buddy Holly," banter, compliment audience. Then "Island in the Sun," and then "Blue Dream," which is the song they were going to debut on The Simpsons, which was why I was very excited about it. Because I'm like, great, we just had Hero, and the music video for Hero was fantastic. I can't wait to talk about that, and especially how relevant it is to COVID times.
In a few years.
In a few years when we get there, if I remember to talk about that. And then after Blue Dream, banter, take requests, but pretend to hear Beverly Hills, and then Beverly Hills. That's their set list. And then right after, they say, "What songs do we know?" That cracked me up. Like, that actually got a genuine laugh out of me. So, I mean, and that's it. Like, that's Weezer. That's the whole Weezer thing for them. Except for right at the end, when they do they play the thing that they showed before. You know. Which we'll get to, but
yeah. Now the thing with Blue Dream. So you were saying you were expecting to hear the whole song. Now I didn't. I had no idea. I did not. I missed out on hearing anything about that prior to.
That was the only reason I want to talk about it. Like when I said, "Hey, let's talk about this," it was before I had watched the episode, and I watched it this morning, and I'm like, "Oh God, maybe I should cancel this." But no, I want to talk about it.
But so what we hear instead of Blue Dream is like 10 seconds. And it's...
Yes!
Yeah.
But...
It's a guitar solo.
The licks are so good. Like, that saved it for me. So in the plot, like, they're running away from... Bart and Lisa are on a horse. They're running away from the Mean Girls, which... There was another really good joke beforehand, before they got on there. Bart's scared of the horse, and Lisa's like, "Come on, I'll show you how peaceful and gentle these creatures are." And he starts to climb the horse from the back, and she's like, "No, not from the back. They'll kick your face in." And I'm just like, that's great writing.
Now something with since you're even talking about Bart now, though, I mean that's something in the plot I thought was pretty good. That I mean they do have you mentioned early on Bart and Lisa have this fight. Well, gee, but it actually is taken to the point where as you mentioned that Lisa doesn't consider him her brother anymore, right? Essentially,
right. Yep.
So she gets on the phone with him and convinces him and does eventually get him to help her, to come and help her and get her and what have you. So there is that aspect that he is actually finally doing the right things, although not for maybe the best reasons. He just likes to cause mischief in a sense, I think.
Right.
is more bigger reason to do what he's doing.
And he's also there to like teach Lisa to not be like to stand up for herself.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then finally with the horse with Bart is that we we have that one part very, very near the end, though. So I'm jumping ahead a good bit, but of him not.
There's nothing else to talk about.
Wanting to get on. Him not wanting to get on the horse because she realizes, because you're afraid of horses. So that's why that whole fight at the beginning happened, is really because he's afraid of them more so than just to torment her. Mm-hmm. But that too.
Which, yeah, and it's like that's the sitcom, the Saturday morning special kind of thing. 'Cause it feels like Weezer. 'Cause it feels like Weezer. Because you said, we're jumping ahead, but it's like, there's not really much else to talk about.
Well, the only one, what I mentioned, the joke that I liked the best, that was my favorite, was when the beer and wine went overboard.
Yeah.
and Milhouse's dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, Martin Van Buren, right? Martin
Van Houten.
Van Houten. Martin Van Houten says.
Wait, no. What is Milhouse's last name?
Milhouse?
It's not Van Buren, because that was our president. Yeah, it is Van Houten.
Yeah.
Okay.
Milhouse's dad says, well, there's all the booze, and this is a cruise. This is just a cruise now.
Yeah. Without the booze, it's only a cruise, and they're all super upset about it. Mm-hmm. That was a good joke. That was a solid one. And then, of course, comic book guy, because it's like we have to make comic book guy jokes. You have disrupted our Mos Eisley fricas and my Iraqian spice buzz, and I'm like, and he's like, that's a 2 reference critique, and I'm like, oh my god, that's awful. But then Homer gets on stage and he's talking about date nights just in general, which I totally get. Like, I love going on date night with my wife, but it's always just like, oh my god, I feel like afterward it's like I just want to go to bed. But then he says, return to your homes and never make plans. Now, I don't know when this was written, but to me, that sounds a lot like COVID-19 advice. So, but yeah, so Blue Dream, just kind of saying my last little bit on that. Wow, like, people have been wanting guitars from Weezer for a while, like for the past 4 albums, and I think we're actually gonna get it this time, because the 2 solos they're the 2 singles that we've had,
full
and then that little bit, I'm like, I'm ready for it. So, actually, I think this might be the last episode we have up before Van Weezer drops.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible just depending on how if we kind of have a week off here or there with the other episodes. And
yeah, the Wikipedia is still saying it was released on the 15th.
Yeah. Which
was not. But yeah, no, it's, so I guess we'll find out here pretty soon.
Yeah. Well, the last thing I have to say about the Blue Dream is that, because I, just looking around, doing a little research, and we, River is actually saying that he did kind of steal this riff from Crazy Train.
Really?
Yeah. But I was thinking it sounded familiar, and I'm pretty sure even from the very first time I heard it, I'm like, man, that sounds a lot like All Along the Watchtower to me. Hendrix, of course, his version, not Dylan, but
right.
But I know that song a lot better than I do Crazy. I mean, yes, I know Crazy Train, but I know Watchtower a lot better.
Hold on, I'm trying to. Of course, I'm not going to be able to find it. I was just going to quickly listen to it, but.
Well, yeah, I have a YouTube.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
It
has all the horse stuff too, like neighing of horses.
Well, hopefully I hope that's in the album. Is what I hope it is. Yeah. Just real quick, let me. That definitely sounds a lot like Crazy Train.
Yeah.
God, I really hope that horse neighing is in there. I just unironically, I think that would be a really fun addition. But, So after just listening to it, I would say it's a little closer to Crazy Train just because of how the guitars sound. I think it sounds like the actual sound of the guitar.
Yeah.
It sounds more like an Ozzy rocker as opposed to a Jimi Hendrix rocker.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
But I also haven't listened to All Along the Watchtower in a long time, so I'm most likely wrong. But I can definitely hear the influence of Crazy Train.
Mm-hmm.
Especially that, like, da-na-na-na-na-na there towards the end, so. Yeah. But yeah, that's about it for the episode. Did you catch the sweater song reference, Eric?
Not recalling.
So
If I caught it.
the theme, when they do the theme,
Yeah.
the when they're zooming in and it's black, and you just see them in silhouette and they kind of do the spin, that's the beginning of the Undone music video.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which I thought was a really cool reference. Yeah. Other than that, it was fun to hear them play it. They definitely put a Weezer spin on the Simpsons theme. Mm-hmm. Like you could tell that it was them playing it. I want to talk about the credits real quick, and I know this is a dumb thing to bring up, but so did you notice the order of the special guest stars?
Yeah. Well, I think that goes back to what I was saying about them kind of being more as actors for each of them individually than they are there as a band. I mean, yes, the band, gave some of their music to have in the show, but because they were acting more like actors, so they just do it alphabetically. So yeah, Cuomo or Brian Bell, I probably comes up first, then Cuomo, but then other people as well are in between, and of course Pat at the end.
So I had this whole thing that I was going to talk about here on the credits. The only reason I brought it up because I'm like, it's really weird about how everybody's billed. That you've got Brian Bell is the first one, and then Rivers Cuomo? That doesn't make any sense. And then I was like, I'm going through this, and I'm like, oh, that's alphabetical. That's alphabetical order. Oh, okay. Yep. I'm an idiot. I wish I wouldn't have brought that up.
What? A librarian didn't know about this alphabetical order thing?
Buddy, look, I've been out of the library game for a good month now, so... But just kind of a couple of assorted thoughts that I have, if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah, sure.
One thing that bothers me, speaking of being a librarian, one thing that bothers me is the people who, fetishize the smell of old books. I hate it. I hate it so much. It's like, you are smelling
What about new
pages. Books? Stop smelling your books. Like, I'm okay with the smell of books. There is this sort of, when I pick up an old Star Wars book, and I smell it, and it's like, oh, that's, I don't know what it is, that weird musty smell. There is something there. But at the same time, I'm not going to broadcast that out. Drives me nuts. I guess that's really all I had about the show. Did you watch it through the Fox website? Right. So you use their preview pass, or do you have cable? You have cable, don't you?
No.
You don't?
No.
So you use their preview pass, so your 1 hour of free content.
When I first watched the first episode, which was the Kevin Smith episode, I think I watched first. There was no kind of mention, I don't think, of preview pass or anything. No countdown like there was when I then watched the Mark Maron episode, or I think this episode and then the Mark Maron episode. So yeah, that was weird. It kind of threw me. It's like, oh, this could be bad if it cuts out with 5 minutes ago or something.
Exactly. And this is totally first world problems right here that we're gonna be talking about.
Yeah.
But this preview pass, okay, so they bill it as 1 hour of content on us. Okay?
Yeah.
You say on us. 1 hour of content. Then you have ads.
Right.
And not only that, you have 3 ad spots of a minute each per episode, which is 20 minutes. And so, well, 20, 21, whatever. So you've got, that's a seventh of an episode. You could, in theory, if you didn't have the ads, you could watch 3 episodes in that hour. Mm-hmm. Just about. But no, because of that, you get at least 5 minutes of ads. 5 to 7. And it's like then a third of an episode is gone there. And like, again, I get it. You're running a business. This is totally first world problems. But at the same time, don't bill it as on us and then do your ads. It's like, if you're going to do that, That's fine. Give me a day then. Like, and again, I know that this is I'm being a choosing beggar. I'm complaining about free content that I'm able to see. But at the same time, you're doing streaming wrong. Like, you shouldn't just give me an hour and then put ads in there. It should be like, give me, even a day with ads. That's fine. But like, and then they have the countdown at the top of the screen the whole time.
Yeah, like, that's probably the more annoying part.
Look at our benevolence trickling down second by second. And you put it in full screen, it's still there. Drives me nuts. The captioning was good, though. I will give them that.
I didn't watch it with any captioning.
I watch everything with captioning. I love captions. Okay, my last random thought, it's also about ads. COVID ads. I hate COVID ads. The COVID-19 ads. Mm-hmm. Like, I've seen all these jokes about people being like, oh yeah, COVID-19, all these ads, these companies, blah blah blah. And I'm like, what are you talking about? That sounds like it's great. Well, like, now watching some of them, it's like, oh my god, you're pandering. This multi-billion-dollar company, Microsoft, oh, don't worry, we got your back. And it's like, do you really, Microsoft? I guess Microsoft's a bad example because Bill Gates is doing amazing things. But it's just like, really? Why are you doing it that way? That's all I have to say about it. I'm sorry. Drives me nuts. The streaming annoyed the crap out of me. The episode wasn't that great. Wasn't nearly enough Weezer to Simpsons. What am I trying to say? The Weezer to Simpsons ratio was not good enough for me. So,
what you'd prefer is Weezer to have their own show,
right?
Rivers and the Gang.
I would love a Weezer animated show, and you know what? If any rock band could do it, Weezer could. Mm. Like, Weezer has that, that je ne sais quoi about them, that they could do something stupid and silly like that, and it could be super successful.
I feel like I heard another band that actually was going to do something like that, but now they're not. It was in the works. I think it was for Bare Naked Ladies.
Yes, they had a sitcom.
Yes. Wow.
They had a sitcom that kind of went out of they stopped production on it. But yeah, like, I think that those two, like, the bands that don't take themselves that seriously, like, they're good musicians, but don't take themselves seriously, really lend themselves well to that kind of thing. And,
otherwise it's just a Spinal Tap kind of
exactly
rip-off in a way, but without the people realizing they're even doing it.
Well, and that's kind of the beauty of some of you kind of see with Weezer, case in point, with the behind the music, working with the Muppets. Yeah. Like, they can play themselves so well. And I know that sounds weird, but you know what I'm talking about. Where you kind of have that level of goofiness, and I think it lends itself well to The Simpsons, and especially The Simpsons that I know and love. Yeah. Also, what's with Marge's voice? That's different. from what it used to be. Is there a new voice actor?
No, I'm pretty
From
sure
10 years ago?
Julie Kavner.
Okay.
I mean, if anything, I think, come on now. This is 31 years plus.
That is true. That is true.
And most of her and Dan Castellaneta, I think that's it. I don't think Azaria or the guy from Spinal Tap, but the two of them, they were players on. They were part of the Tracy Ullman,
really,
actors. But so it's definitely way over 31 years, really 32, right. 33 ish. But as they get older, their voices are going to change.
That is true. Yeah, it was like I said, the last episode I saw was like 10 years ago.
I get more upset by, as we've been talking about, Muppets. The Muppets' voices change. How drastic they're how much more they've changed.
Well,
and them mostly because of Jim Henson passing, mainly.
Yeah. It always comes back to Muppets, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The Muppets shall flow. But yeah, that's all I got about
it.
It was fun. As much as I kind of just shat on it, I think it's it's cool that The Simpsons is still kind of doing stuff like that where they're pulling in people who are relevant to the moment. And I think that we can say that Weezer is relevant to the moment at this point. Because of the new album and also because of Africa and that. But Mark Maron especially, definitely relevant to the moment. 30 years from now, maybe 30 years from now, he'll be regarded as still one of the podcast pioneers. But yeah, I don't know. It's it was very disappointing watching it from when I was thinking about it when I was a kid to now, and but it was still like it brought me like warm, like it's like I know this isn't good, but it's bringing me warm fuzzies. You know what I'm saying? But,
yeah, definitely. Well, and even as long ago as say 10 or so years ago, I mean there was little Facebook apps or what have you. I think that's what they might have been, or what one was. Simpsonify yourself. So whenever you get to see a celebrity, what have you, get portrayed.
Get Simpsonite. Yeah. It's well, and they I didn't have anything to add to that. I don't know what I was saying. But yeah, so that's the Hateful 8-Year-Olds, which pretty good title. I will give them that.
Well, and there's one thing I haven't really actually put out there into the world. Did I tell you about it?
I don't know.
After Almost Famous Minute, that will be my next podcast.
The Hateful 8?
Hateful 8 Minutes.
Ooh, that's exciting.
So not one minute at a time. Get away from that, that's for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Oh, that's great. So we'll expect that in 2037 when you're done with Almost Famous Minute. Yeah, Tarantino is an interesting guy, that's for sure. But I haven't seen The Hateful Eight in a long time. I saw it when it first came out, but I haven't seen it since then. Same with Django. Like, I need to rewatch Django. Django Unchained. So, all right. Well, I'm Zach Frackton-Smith. You can follow me on Twitter at The Informal Log.
And I'm Eric Nash. You can find my old podcast, Watchmen Minute, and newer stuff like Almost Famous Minute out there in the ether.
And then eventually, almost the Hateful Eight. The handful of 8 minutes, the Hateful 8 minutes. I'm trying to help you, but I think the Hateful 8 minutes works really well. Anyway, you can follow Feels Like Weezer and Almost Famous Minute on PantheonPodcast.com. You can follow them on Twitter at Pantheon Pods. You can follow us on Twitter at Feels Like Weezer. You can find us on Facebook, Feels Like Weezer. You can join the Feels Like Weezer Listener Society on Facebook. You can send us an email, feelslikeweezer@gmail.com. We also have shirts and masks on our TeePublic store. Not sure for how much longer at this point, but but yeah, you can purchase those. There's a link down below in the description. So yeah, that's da 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 da.